See, so many of you were able to join us today. It's exciting. We're adding a whole new module to our AssetWorks offering. Um, the new AI Dashcams have become a part of the AssetWorks GPS product, which is our in-house telematics offering. And what we'll talk about today is just a little bit about the Dashcam hardware configurations. What exactly do the Dashcams do? What kind of features do they have? Why fleets should invest in AI technology? And then we'll go through a bit of a live demo where I can show you how it looks within our AssetWorks GPS product. And then we'll do some wrap up and questions. So the first thing we'll look at here is a little bit of the Dashcam hardware options. So the primary offering is our forward and cab facing dash cam. Now, the cab facing can be turned off for people who don't want to record the operator in the vehicle and just be used as a forward facing only camera. The forward facing is a 4K camera up to 4K, and it's 1080p ultra wide driver facing camera so that you can get a view of everything that's happening inside the cab. You can use storage up to 512 gigabytes in a storage card in the device, which means you could record up to 664 hours of loop recording. You can also set aside a portion of the card itself to store events longer term. So you could have a portion for the loops, and then you will have a portion for storing the events. So you could end up storing thousands of events on the card. So even once the loop rolls over, you still have all of those events recorded there. It has second-by-second GPS tracking. You can enable a microphone so it can record audio in the cab for events, a Doppler-based motion sensor, a panic button. It has AI advanced driver assistance system, as well as driver monitoring system. It provides real-time coaching. And very soon we're going to offer a driver facial recognition feature. So again, this is an optional feature, but you can use this to have your drivers sign on to the vehicle as soon as they get in the cab. We also have the option of adding on an auxiliary camera. Later this year, we'll have the option of adding on 2 auxiliary cameras. And what these can be used for is it can be used for a rear-facing camera. In the image you see there, the larger portion of the image is actually the front-facing view from an F-150, and then this is the rear-facing view out the back of the truck. He's got a tonneau covering it up here. So you can mount these as a rear-facing camera. You could mount it as a side-facing camera. A good use case for that would be, let's say, garbage trucks. Yes, the bin was there when we arrived. No, the bin wasn't there when we arrived, and that's where we never picked it up. So you can mount this in any orientation you'd like. And it can be mounted up to 60 feet away from the cab, so it gives a lot of flexibility there. To talk about the storage a little bit more, I know I mentioned you could have up to a 512 gigabyte storage card. 128 is more typical, but to give you an idea, with a 512 gigabyte card, it records 664 hours of looping data, which equates to about 83 days, assuming that that vehicle is running and in operation for 8 hours a day. So that's a lot of data. Now, the way that the data works as well is every time you generate an event, you can have it configured to send the data into the backend cloud environment, and then that's going to be available to you in the AssetWorks GPS website for up to a year. Now, once we go beyond the year, we put it into what's called cold storage. So let's say that there was an accident, an incident, something had happened. You didn't download the data within that year that it's available for you right on the website real time. You just have to reach out to us. We can go back, and all of that cold storage, all of those events, the video is stored indefinitely. So you never have to worry about losing an event, losing the video that you downloaded, you need it for a lawsuit, something like that. All of that data is recorded. And again, you can store a tremendous amount on the camera itself. Next, we'll go in and we'll talk a little bit about the camera events and how this improves driver safety. So looking at a standard dash cam, the type that you would get, that you'd put in your own vehicle, things like that, it does all of the standard things. So there's G-force events, there's acceleration events, braking events, turning events. And we actually record those at 3 different levels. So we have a hard acceleration, a harsh acceleration, and a severe acceleration, all the way up to a potential hit, which we believe there's been some type of incident. And then there's also parked events, where if the vehicle is parked, and let's say it was sideswiped or backed into something like that, the camera immediately wakes up and starts recording video during that impact so that you would have some type of record of what happened there. There's also a driver panic button that they can press at any point, and it will record a configurable amount of data before and after the event. And I should say that all of the events, you can control how much data you want before the event happened and how much data you want after the event happened. So a big part of what we've done in the system is we've tried to make it so that we keep the amount of data being sent in really small, because we know that that's one of the reasons that people don't move forward with the dash cams, is they worry about the data plans, the overages, things like that, the amount of cost that there's going to be. So we've put a lot of time and effort to make sure we're only going to upload the video that you want. You can just download images. So let's say that I had a seatbelt violation. I probably don't need to download a video for a seatbelt violation. I can just go ahead and I can send in an image, which is going to keep those data plans small and keep your operating costs down. The last one we have here is power disconnect. And this basically will record a video as soon as the camera's touched because of the G-force sensor. It's going to start recording, and it will record up until the point that power's disconnected. So if someone's tampering with it, if they're removing the memory card or anything, trying to remove the memory card or anything like that, then all of that would be recorded. Now, moving on to AI, I thought I would talk a little bit about the type of AI we use, and it's called Edge AI, or artificial intelligence at the edge. So historically, a lot of cameras, and even a lot of newer cameras today, they try to do a little bit of analysis on the camera itself, but then they send the video back. The analysis is done at the actual server level, and then that event is sent back to the vehicle to let the driver know they've done something. So you can start to get a lot of delays when you're talking about doing all of that analysis on the back end, plus additional costs, because you're having to send that video in for final analysis to see, yes, that was a missed stop sign or a lane departure, things like that. Well, with our camera offering, all of the AI lives on the camera itself. So the camera's doing all of that analysis real time so that drivers can get that real time coaching as they're sitting in the vehicle. So when we talk about AI, there's a few different options here. So for forward facing, we track following too close or tailgating, collision warnings, solid line lane departures, stop sign violations, and then a few new ones that are coming out later this year, a pedestrian collision warning, a posted speed sign violation, and a red light violation. So all of these events are configurable. So typically what we would say is you have to be traveling at least, let's say, 40 miles an hour, and following too close means you're 2 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. Tailgating would be 1 second behind the vehicle in front of you. Now you can control those speed parameters. You can control how many seconds forward and behind. Again, to minimize the number of false positives you get, or if you live in an urban area and there is a lot of heavy traffic all the time that's packed in and close together, maybe you don't have the option to drive with that much distance because someone's going to pull right in. So you'll be able to tailor all of these different events to your specific fleet and your specific area and driving needs. Next, we have the standard driver facing options. So this would be no driver. So either some type of Tesla or something that's driving on its own, but typically more so it's going to be that the camera's been covered. There's no seatbelt, there's yawning, there's cell phone use, smoking, and distracted. Now with the basic functionality, distracted means the head pose. So either I'm looking out the side window and after a period of time, it says, no, you've been looking that way too long, or maybe I'm looking down at my phone, things like that. So it's looking at the position of the head. So then what we have as well is an advanced driver monitoring system where a secondary little camera is installed on the A-pillar just in front of the driver, and it specifically focuses on the driver's eyes. So then it can tell if the driver is drowsy, if they're asleep, if they're distracted. So if I'm trying to be smart and I'm looking down at my cell phone and I'm kind of keeping my head up and my eyes are just looking down, that's the level of driver monitoring you'd be able to get by adding this secondary camera. So that gives you an idea of all the AI Dashcam events that we track today with the camera. Next, there's alerts and coaching. And it's kind of exciting that our timing's really good today because we actually officially released our driver warning coaching today. So this is now available. It's fully released. It's available for the cameras. They can be updated out in the field as of today. And what this means is instead of the camera just telling the driver once they've been busted for following too close, and the driver then knows that, oh, that's going to show up on my driver scorecard, it's going to affect things for me. It's now going to say, you can configure to say, let's say 10 seconds ahead of that, increase following distance. So this isn't going to generate a video, it's not going to generate an event, it's not going to go onto the driver's scorecard, because it's given them the opportunity to correct. Now what this does, again, reduces your data plan. We're not sending in as many events because the driver had the option to correct ahead of time. It also makes them safer because prior to being told you've done something bad, it's giving you the option to correct. So this is just another way to enhance the overall safety of the driver. And the final thing it does is another reason that blocks people from getting this is drivers don't like the camera. They don't like the idea of the camera. It's Big Brother, things like that. So it's now a tool for them because it's going to make sure that those types of events are not showing up on their scorecard. So again, real-time Edge AI feedback saying increase following distance ahead of the event happening, or put your phone away, different things like that. So again, great timing. We just released that brand new feature today. And I guess one of the questions is, why make the investment? So the key benefits and what people look at a lot of times is driver safety. So one of the most important things when you're looking at dash cams is improving the safety of your fleet, improving the safety of the general public. And another option people look at is the financial gains. You have a great way to reduce your insurance premiums because you can now provide evidence for driving incidents. It's going to streamline the settlements. It's going to help fight insurance fraud, those nuclear settlements, things like that. And it even captures parking incidents. So if someone backs into you or things like that, when really it would have had to go on your insurance, you were sideswiped while it was parked. Now you at least have a chance to capture video of the car driving away that hit you and things like that. So talking a little bit more, just diving a little bit further into safety, I just wanted to go into this. So these are all the driver behaviors that led to fatalities back in 2020. So with the AI camera, we're now able to capture 20% of these behaviors and slowly over time work with our fleet to reduce their numbers. Arguably, the other one here is obey traffic signs, signals, or officer. I mean, we can already track stop signs today. Before the end of the year, we're going to be able to track traffic lights. So we'll be able to add another 4.2%, which is going to get us really close to 1 in 4 driver behaviors leading to fatalities. So used properly, this tool can help you dramatically reduce the chance of any of your drivers being involved in a fatality type accident. One of the questions I get all the time is, well, sure, it's great if someone hits us and they're at fault, but what about if my driver's at fault? Well, I thought about it the same way initially. Insurance companies, your legal team, however you're structured, they want to know either way. So if you're at fault, their goal is to settle quickly, keep the payout low, prevent that nuclear verdict, and move on past it. It's the whole back and forth, he said, she said, everything over time that really starts to jack up those lawyer fees, right? So it avoids it in that way. And if the other driver's at fault, they can push for the larger, more fair settlement, things like that. And it's in your best interest either way. And then what about privacy? Unions, driver issues, pushback, things like that. I mean, the way to look at the cameras is safety is a mutual goal for everyone. No union or drivers or anyone's going to push back on something that improves, or it's hard to push back, I should say, on something that improves safety. So some of the advice we can give is just make sure you're reviewing this if you're going to move forward with your drivers, your unions, make sure the contracts, there's no violations. Communicate all of the details, focus on the positives, reward the safe driver. So do all the things that are going to make people buy into this type of idea. I mean, when I look at dash cams, I think we're on the cusp today of where we were with GPS maybe 5 or 10 years ago. There was a tremendous amount of pushback. I mean, I've been doing this 25 years in the GPS space, there was a tremendous amount of pushback. This is Big Brother. It knows how fast I'm going. It knows all of this information about me. We don't want it. Now, every new vehicle you buy captures that information automatically. Pretty much every fleet has some kind of telematics device in there. People just know that there's GPS on their vehicle, and it's accepted. And I think we're getting very close to the tipping point for that with cameras. I mean, one of the reasons we would want to get cameras nowadays is how often when you're watching the news, there's always someone that's captured some kind of event on video. That's going to be happening more and more and more. And as you see, a lot more people are getting these dash cams in their personal vehicles and things like that. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be the only person that doesn't have access to a video of the accident when it happened, because that's going to put you at a real disadvantage when it comes to the lawsuit and things like that. So I think we're very close to a tipping point here where it's going to become accepted, and it's going to be more likely than not that what's happened is going to be captured on video. And if you're not the one with that video, again, you're going to be at somewhat of a disadvantage. So what I want to do now is I want to go through and we'll hop into the demo, and I'll show you how all of this plays together in AssetWorks GPS. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to log in. And for the demo today, I'm using one of our sales guys' accounts. So I'm just going to log in as him. So for those of you not familiar with AssetWorks GPS, you've never used it, you've never been to any of the demos, I'll just do a quick walkthrough of what we're seeing here. So when you first log in, you're going to see a map with all of the vehicles that you personally have access to. So in this case, Mike had access to the vehicles all the way across North America, so it's zoomed out so he can see all of those vehicles. He can easily go up here and filter based on the division or the department that they're located in, asset types. Are they inside a landmark or geofence? Are they outside a landmark or geofence? He can create custom groups, personal groups, private groups, and he can also, based on filters. So if I went here and I just hover over this, as with everything NFSS, you could see that just show me all the vehicles that currently have an asset trouble light on. So a lot of different ways that you can go in and you can filter this map down. On the left-hand side here, we have a list of all the vehicles. So if you click on any one of these vehicles, it's going to zoom you into the map. Maybe turn satellite on, probably be a little more relevant. And it's going to show you where that vehicle is on a map. So pretty standard GPS type functionality. So now if I go here, I'm going to look for my vehicle. And I'm going to view the details of my vehicle. This is where we start to get into the camera functionality. So now what we see here is I see my location, the last time it moved, ignition, the device, information about it, fuel level. I can see the different telematics I'm getting, the meters on the vehicle, things like that. But the nice thing is I get this little picture right here of where my vehicle was when I turned off the ignition. So the advantage of having that is you know that the vehicle's in the northwest corner of your lot, but you're not exactly sure where it is. You can't find it. What this does is it gives you the ability, I'm just going to change screens here for 1 second. This is my phone. I can pull this exact same view up on my phone, and now when I'm walking around the lot, this would give me a lot better idea of where this vehicle's actually parked. Maybe I can see it's facing the shop. I can see that it's pointed to the fire truck in the rear of the yard, so I know exactly where that is, right? So just handy things having this available on the main website as well as on the phone. And the phone isn't an application, it's actually just another website. So users don't need to install anything like that. If they don't want to use it, that's fine. If they say, yeah, this is an advantage to me, I'm just going to use my own data plan, my own phone, I'm going to log into the website same way that I do when I'm on the terminal inside, I can get this information and it's available to me real time. So that's what happens when you look at the vehicle details here. The other thing that it shows here is it's going to show the amount of data I've used. So you can keep track on your data usage for a given billing period. Nice to have, see if you're going over, things like that. It can be run in a report. It can be exported as part of a spreadsheet from a table. A lot of different ways to do that. Now, one of the disadvantages to a lot of these webcams on the market is the device. There's no way to wake the device. So if I want to see a live stream from the device, if I want to download a period of time that wasn't recorded as an event, I have no way to wake up that camera. I have to wait till it checks in every 6 hours, or I have to go out and get someone to start it. One of the real advantages that we have with our system is I'm able to go here now and I'm able to turn on a dash cam live stream. So what this is going to do, the camera's in a very low power state. The camera's actually off. The modem inside's in a very low power state, but it's ready to receive a text message. So it receives a text message, which fully powers on the modem, which then fully powers on the camera. And then I'm able to, at any point, download either live video or historical video by waking the camera from wherever I am. So even if this camera's out in the field, things like that, you'd be able to do that. So I'm not going to do this now. It takes upwards of a minute or so typically to, well, it's coming now, to get this information showing. But it really is an advantage that this information is available to you anytime. And something that I recommend to our clients is maybe don't download any video. Let's keep those data plans really small for your fleet. Let's not download the data. Let's just show an image when any of these events happen. And then if I actually have to go in and there's something I actually want to see, I can wake that camera anytime I want. You saw here, it took 30 seconds to a minute. And now I'm able to see that historical video or the live video like we're seeing right now out of my vehicle that's been turned off for the last few hours. And again, down the side here, same type of information I was showing before for those asset details. So next I'm going to go here and we'll look at a quick history. Now what a quick history is, it shows the last few hours, what a vehicle's done, where it's driven, things like that. I'll turn this off so it's a little easier for everybody to see. And this is going to show me my history. So now what I'm able to do is I'm able to zoom in here and I can click on events. So let's click on this event right here. This is a severe acceleration event, and I can go ahead and hit the play button here. So we'll do this, we'll say yes. And there's going to be a little more data here than you saw with the live view. It's going to show me my max accelerations. It's going to show me a graph of it here, all second by second details for that specific event. Now, the other thing that's nice with the historical events is at the bottom here, if my truck was throwing any trouble codes or anything like that, it would show up here as well. So let's say that this video was of an incident and I had rear-ended someone. I would actually see here that, oh, look, he had an amber lamp on in his truck, a warning lamp, and it was an ABS failure based on the DTC that's coming in. So there was a problem with the brakes. No one did anything about it, which led to an accident. So a lot of really powerful information by having some of these details here. So those are for camera specific events that I'm showing right there. I know that's a camera event. Now for non-camera events, like if I go here, looks like I started driving without signing on. I don't have an image here because that's not a camera generated event. That's an event generated by our telematics backend. But I can still go here. I could hit play. It's going to go out, wake that camera up, and download that video for me so I can see what was happening at that time. Maybe there was idling. Why was this person idling so long at this location? What's at that location? Oh, I turned the video on. Oh, it's a food truck that happens to be parked there or something like that, right? So you have access to video for all the telematics events within your system, whether or not they're generated by the camera itself. So again, a very powerful feature, the ability to wake up that camera. And then lastly here, you're able to open this. And now for every single location report I have here in the system, I could go ahead and I could download that data. So if we go back to our example in the for the data card size, if I had a 512 gig data card in there and I used my vehicle 8 hours a day, I would be able to go back in history 83 days and get any of this information right here. For the events themselves, so if I had a harsh acceleration event, things like that, or a hard turning event right here, I could go ahead and get this type of video for up to a year back. And then beyond that, this harsh turning would still be available. You would just have to request it from us because we had moved it over into that cold storage. So now I just want to go through and talk a little bit on the back end side. Well, what do we do with all this data? How do we use it? So if I go here and I go into our administrative module, I'm going to go ahead and create a notification. So I'm going to create a notification and I'm going to create, let's say, a distraction notification for my US division. I'll click next. So I would have to give this a name. This is my sleepy notification. I would want to turn this notification on. I would select drowsiness. So let's say that I know in my fleet we do a lot of driving at night, things like that. I really want to know when someone's drowsy. Now I could generate a real-time notification for this. So the second that that event's generated on the device, it sends that in, and then someone can receive a real-time notification. So then I can go here and say, okay, I want to associate that to only asset types. It's only our pickup trucks that drive at night. So I go ahead here. I make sure that that's included for all of our pickup trucks in our fleet. I can go here and edit the message that shows up. So this would be the email or text message that shows up on my phone when someone is getting drowsy. And then I can choose the recipient. So in this case, looks like Mike has his email set up in the system. I can do that. If he didn't, I could go here and I could manually type in an email address. Same thing with texts. If someone has their phone set up, they can have it here, or you can type in phone numbers. So very easy to get that information either summarized over time, or you can get that information real time. Someone's drowsy, someone's distracted. Maybe they're going in and out of the lanes more than you're comfortable with. So maybe they're inebriated, something like that, right? So you can get real time information from all of these different dash cam generated events. Now, one of the questions that people bring up quite a bit is, well, we don't want to start with the driver facing events. What do we do? So what we've done is we've put in the ability for us on our side to control which events get generated for you, which limits the ability for you to even turn them on. So if you said, no, we don't want any of those distracted events, I would go here, I would expand out distractions, and I would turn all of these distractions off, which are the internal driver facing camera. And at that point, you would have no ability to turn this on in your system. So really good functionality here to limit what you're able to do with that camera, what's available and what's not. So the nice thing with that is you can grow into it. Sure, you have the two-facing camera right now. You're not generating any of those events. At some point in the future, we can start generating those events and you would gain access to it. The other thing we've put into the system is the ability to limit who has access to the video. You may not want everyone in your fleet having access to the video. You don't want just anyone downloading video at random periods of time when someone's doing something inappropriate or whatever happens to be in the cab of the vehicle and then holding that over their heads, things like that. You'd probably want to limit this to the people that actually need the video. And the way that would work is if I went back to my vehicle here and I clicked on this, it would show here, this would be disabled and it would say, I do not have authority to view live video, or I don't have authority to view historical event video. So a lot of control there where, again, you can limit the amount of data that's going to be used. People aren't downloading video for no good reason. Only the specific people that need access have it for that video. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about is just some of my own experience. So I installed the dash cam for the first time in about late November last year. And I really had no expectations on how it would work, what it would do, things like that. I just started using it. And I guess one of the big faults that I have was close following and tailgating. And without trying to or noticing it, over time, I just don't do that anymore. And I think part of it was I didn't realize what a safe distance was. I always felt, well, this seems safe. But really, once you start to think, oh, well, it just told me I was tailgating. I was only 1 second from that vehicle in front of me. If they slammed their brakes, there's probably no chance that I would be able to brake in time and I would have been in an accident. So I don't think I was even intentionally driving poorly or aggressively or anything else. But without this type of technology to inform me, hey, you're too close, I just didn't know what it really meant. So, I mean, this has, again, without me trying to or anything else, it's changed my driving behavior. And now for this demo today, I typically have to go out now and drive to generate events, drive a bit aggressively to generate events that 6 months ago I would have been generating all the time. So it was just really interesting to see how that evolved just with me personally as a driver once I put that dash cam in the system. So that's all I had today. We went through it really quickly. There's a lot to talk about, probably a lot more than we could go through here if we had another hour. But if anyone has any questions, let me know. Or if you're interested, it might make sense to just have a personal demo so you can ask your own questions, things like that, or even start a pilot and see how this works in your fleet. Because really, until you have it installed, again, this was my impression too. I wasn't sure how it was going to work or what it was going to do till I really played with it myself. So again, lots of good options there if you want some more information.
Yeah, so Phil's email's there if you guys have any questions. But we do have a Q&A session, luckily. So as just a reminder, if you have any questions at this time, just send them to me, the host, using the WebEx chat tool on your screen, and I'll pass your question to Phil. So to start off, we have a couple questions coming in. So can we start with forward-facing only events?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely we can do forward-facing only events. You can do it one of two ways. You either have the control to turn it off so that none of those events are generated, or you can get us to turn it off on the back end so that you have no access to those events. So two different ways of thinking about it. You can control it yourself, or we can just prevent it to make sure that no one in your organization has access to even turn on those events. So you could have just forward-facing to start if that's what you wanted to do.
Thank you. And is the dash cam able to record audio in the cab as well?
The Dashcam is able to record audio. One thing I found is I found that more intrusive than the video itself, just personally, because you never know what you're talking about when all of a sudden someone slams on the brakes in front of you, an event's generated, you were talking to your significant other about a doctor's appointment, who knows what, right? And then all of a sudden that video is recorded. So what we're actually doing is we're looking to control that a little bit more. So maybe I only want to record the audio when I press the panic button. Now I'm making a conscious decision that I'm about to press the panic button. It's going to hear what's happening in the cab. And maybe I work for a utility company and I see power lines down. So I want to get in my vehicle into a position showing the power lines that are down. I'll press that panic button. I'll describe the situation, whatever it is. They'll receive that audio. We would have set up one of those notifications so that whenever the panic button's pressed, that goes to a specific email or text message, things like that. And then beyond just seeing the video that someone pressed the panic button, you'd actually be able to describe what was going on and why you pressed the button. So I think that's a lot more user friendly for a lot of users, but absolutely, if you want to record audio for any type of event, that's available as well.
Great, thank you, Phil. And can I get a real-time notification when the camera records events?
Just talked about that one there too. Yeah, again, all of the notifications can be real time or summary. So you can set it up where specific events generate real time notifications. Like I say, being drowsy, falling asleep, things like that. Those are things you really want to know probably real time, or an incident. But there's other ones, maybe harsh driving, whether or not you're wearing a seatbelt. Maybe you're just going to look at that weekly or on a driver scorecard, things like that. You don't need that as often. So you might get that as a summary email once a day, once a week, things like that, where you don't necessarily have to have those real-time notifications.
Thank you. And are you able to control the conditions that generate an event?
Yes. So again, we talked about that a little bit as well. You can control the speed, the minimum speed you have to be going for an event to be generated. You can control how long it waits before generating the event. So in the case of close following, again, maybe I'll set that to 45 miles an hour because I definitely don't want to record close following and stop and go traffic, right? So I'd want to set that at least high enough that I'm moving at a speed where it would be dangerous if I start following too close. Again, you would set that for your own fleet. We can come up with defaults for you. But again, that would be something that you would control on your side of the fleet and say, okay, I think that in our city, really congested traffic, we're going to have to set it so that close following is a second and a half and tailgating is maybe 3/4 of a second. So you're going to have to close that in a little bit, knowing that it's really a lot of heavy congestion of traffic. So you don't want too many events generated in those cases.
Okay. Looks like that's all the questions, so I'd like to thank you all again for attending today's webinar. Hopefully you've all secured some valuable takeaways to keep in mind moving forward. Thank you, Phil, as well, for sharing your expertise with everyone today. As you guys see, Phil's contact information is available. As we mentioned, if you have any follow-up questions, just feel free to reach out to him. I hope you all have a great day, and we look forward to having you with us next time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.